All right, what is going on, guys? Happy Monday. Hopefully, you guys had a good weekend. We've got NBA and we've got NFL. As always, we're going to break all that down. But make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get the subscriber count up. Share the video with some friends and hop in the Discord, man. What an environment. It was absolutely awesome yesterday. Shout out to Erwin, who had a fantastic day. I think it might have been his best day ever. So big congratulations to him. That was awesome. Felt really good for him. We hit day 2 of the ladder. So on to day 3. Will it be today? I don't know. I need to look. Decent chance, but we'll see. So let's talk about yesterday before we get into all the picks and everything. Wonderful day. We had an absolute crushing day. 11-4 overall. We went 5-2 in the NBA. A little unlucky. We had Halliburton over 8.5 assists. He had 5 at halftime. Got hurt, did not come back. So he got hurt a little bit before halftime. Who knows? Might have gotten 6 before half, but unlucky there. And then Nikola Vucevic, the guy I hate to take, but it was such a good matchup. He just decided to get lazy as hell in the first half. Only had 3 boards, finished with 8. So those were our 2 misses. We hit Giannis over rebounds. We hit Keegan Murray under rebounds. We hit Jonas over 7.5 rebounds. We hit Miles Turner over 6.5 rebounds. And we hit LaMelo Ball over 11.5 rebounds plus assists. That was super sweat-free. In the NFL, we hit Josh Allen over 7.5 rush attempts. We hit the combo of 225 pass plus 25 rush. We missed the Tampa Bay Washington over. Didn't quite get the offense in the first half I thought we would. We missed Rashad White over 3.5 rush attempts. That was very disappointing. Austin Eckler over 2.5 receptions. We cashed that. Brian Robinson under 12.5 rush attempts. He ended up with 10. Kenneth Gainwell, one of my favorite plays of the day. Over 2.5 rush attempts. He had 2 rush attempts in the first quarter. So we ended up cashing that. And then we had Josh Jacobs anytime touchdown, which we cashed. So absolute beautiful day. Couldn't ask for more there. So let's get into basketball, and then we will circle back and we will talk about NFL. So first game on the card is going to be Timberwolves and the Wizards. We see Timberwolves minus 13.5. Wizards are not good. So that said, I don't trust Minnesota minus 13.5. Wouldn't have a play in this one in terms of that. Heavy lean towards the over 223.5 in this one. That's kind of a decently high line for Minnesota. You usually see this line versus fast-paced teams, which the Wizards are. So I think this line makes sense. I actually had this at 226.5. So I like the over 223.5. Next game, Pistons and the Knicks. Loved the Knicks yesterday, and they absolutely demolished them. So another spot where going up against a Pistons team, I didn't expect minus 7.5. So I do like the Knicks minus 7.5 in this spot. In terms of the over-under, 223.5 is just perfectly placed. I wouldn't want to touch it. So to me, it's Knicks minus 7.5. We're going to do an alt line on this, but I would have a lean towards that. Golden State and the Raptors. We see Golden State minus 6.5. Very reasonable line, even though they're playing in Toronto. This Toronto team's not great. I'm not seeing them mesh well. With Quickly back on the court, we've got Brown back. I feel like they're kind of working through some rotational things. I just don't love the way they looked. Now, they hung with Cleveland, but I think that's an outlier if we look at recent results. So give me Golden State, who's fairly healthy. No Kuminga, but other than that, I like this rotation they have right now. So Golden State minus 6.5 would be my favorite play, especially at plus money. And then I would have a lean towards the under 229.5. Grizzlies and the Rockets, round 2. We see Houston minus 2 at home. Grizzlies team still dealing with some injuries. I don't love the lines for this Grizzly team. It just, everything sets up to where it should be Houston minus 2. So give me Houston minus 2. We were on the under when it was 231 the last time these guys played. They had a massive first quarter. They scored almost 80 points in the first quarter, and they barely went over that 231. I think they ended up at like 234. So I have a heavy lean towards the under 236 in this one. I just don't think they're going to bust out almost 80 points in the first quarter again. Miami Heat versus the Clippers. Heat are just so bad. Clippers got Kawhi back. I like the way he looks. So give me Clippers minus 6. I think this is a great value. That said, obviously betting NBA money, I don't do it a ton, but we actually do have a play today. Over under of 214.5, kind of high for a Heat game. But I would lean towards this over 214.5. Clippers defensively haven't been fantastic, but for a Heat, it all just depends on how they're shooting the three. They shoot the three way too much, and they're not great at it. Not like a Boston Celtics team that makes it at a pretty high clip. Next game is going to be, or the last game is going to be the Spurs and the Lakers. See, Lakers minus 3.5 at home. I think this is good value. They've had plenty of time off. I think they're playing. I think there's going to be an emotional aspect here, right? They're playing for the city, and I think they're going to want to go out, really try hard and get that win tonight. I think they're going to come out fired up. I mean, their coach lost his house in the fire. There's a lot of emotional aspects to that, right? And that's typically going to go one of two ways. But I'm banking on that it goes in the Lakers' favor. So Lakers minus 3.5 be a strong lean for me, over 221.5 as well. All right, let's talk about this NFL game. A little NFL game happening tonight. We got the Vikings and the Rams. We see Rams plus 2.5. Now, they don't necessarily get the home field advantage, so they're playing in Glendale, Arizona at the Cardinals field. So it does erase the home field advantage. My concern is when we look at this Vikings team, they had to play last week, so they had something very important on the line, whereas the Rams got to rest all of their starters, so they're going to have the rest advantage. That Vikings D was exposed, and they were exposed in a major way. And offensively, Darnold looked terrible. They pressured him, and he absolutely collapsed. I think we're going to see something very similar tonight. They were exposed, and I expect the same, but to maybe a lesser degree today. I think Darnold is much more successful in this game than he was last week. If we look at the Vikings road record, they're 6-2 on the road, but you dig deeper. I mean, they had very, very narrow wins against the Jaguars, the Seahawks, and the Bears that are included in those 6 wins. So take that what you will. Those teams have not been great. And then what concerns me about the Vikings is if we look over the course of the last 3 games in terms of their red zone efficiency, it's been terrible. They've only scored on 40% of red zone. So that highly concerning. Couple that with just the way Darnold looked, and you've got a Super Bowl winning QB. Do I trust Stafford or do I trust Darnold more? I'm going to go Stafford all the time. It's just, to me, that's a clear advantage there. Now, if you want to talk over under, there's some historical data that supports the over here. Vikings versus Rams has gone over in 9 of the 10 games when the Vikings were on the road. So there's a lot of data support taking the over 47.5 in this one. I could see it hitting. I mean, I have this projected somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 24, some projections 21 to 27 in terms of the Rams, actually. So wouldn't mind floating a Rams money line out there. But to me, it's Rams plus 2.5, just a better team. I trust Stafford more. I just think the Vikings got majorly exposed last week, and that's on film for teams to just go to town on. So that is where I'm at with that. Let's get into our plays, get you guys on your way here. So let's start with NBA. So in the NBA, we're going right back to our boy Jonas. We're going to take him over 6.5 rebounds tonight. So we're getting a 1 rebound discount. Blowouts are fine for me. He just gets more playing time. So perfectly fine in that. He is over this line in 8 of his last 10. He's over this in 9 of 11 versus Minnesota. So we've got good hit rate data here. Rudy Gobert did leave the game yesterday, so that is something to keep in mind. I don't know if he plans on playing, or was it yesterday or day before? I don't know. It's all kind of melding into one. But at some point, he left the game. Now, he did end up coming back. I think it was 2 days ago, actually. But something to keep in mind. Next play is going to be Jalen Duren, under 9.5 rebounds. This guy typically does the opposite of whatever I want him to do, so he probably goes over. But he's got a 50% hit rate his last 10. The way I picture this game, I think the 7 is a joke. I think they end up blowing him out. He's going to have to chase Cat around. Duren loves to foul. This is the dumbest dude when it comes to fouling people. I think he's going to foul Cat a lot. So if we look at the last 2 times they've played, he's had 7 and 3 rebounds in 2 games played against them this season. And he's been in foul trouble in every game. So I expect nothing less from this dude who just loves to hack people. Next play, Fred VanVleet. You know, we got to fade Fred. Under 6.5 assists. This line, I feel like it should be 5.5. He's only over this line in 3 of his last 10 games, and Memphis is 4th in terms of least assist allowed to the point guard position. So just feels a little high in my opinion. Next one, we're going to go to Bam Adebayo. I don't love taking Miami on anything, but 8.5 feels a little light. It probably should be 9.5. He's over this line in 6 of 6 versus the Clippers. He's averaging 11.5 rebounds against them. So we've got good historical data here to back this. And he's just over this line in 7 of his last 10 anyway. So I do like that. Austin Reeves, under 7.5 assists. This guy was really hot for a while, kind of cooled down. He's over this in 50% of his games. Spurs, very middle of the road in terms of assists allowed to the shooting guard position. And if we look head to head, he's only over this in 2 of 10 versus the Spurs. I just think LeBron takes over tonight. It feels like a LeBron takeover, but I don't take LeBron overs. But tonight could be a good night for that. And last bet in the NBA, we're going to do a combo here. We're going to take the Knicks -2.5 and pair it with Golden State money line. Put those two together, you get +102 on DraftKings. Couple of leans I like in the NBA before we get to the NFL. I do like Cat to go over 12.5 rebounds. It's -125 on FanDuel. We saw it the other day. He had like 4 at halftime and he ended up with like 16. So he just piles on rebounds. And then give me Grady Dick. You know, we gotta, sometimes we gotta ride Dick here. Over 2.5 rebounds at -154 on FanDuel. So it's very heavily juiced. Could look at his rebounds plus assist if you want to knock that down. And then the last lean would be Zubac for the Clippers over 12.5 rebounds. Kind of a light line for him. I mean, he's been rebounding like crazy. You can get this at -105 on DraftKings. Almost made the card, but didn't. I would say Cat, Zubac, and then Grady Dick in terms of orders there. All right, let's talk about the NFL here. So first play, we're going to go with Aaron Jones over 59.5 rush yards. So the Rams are very susceptible to the run. They're 28th in rushing yards allowed. If we look, Cam Akers has really kind of started to take some chunks from his rushing. Akers attempts lines at 5.5, and he's heavily favored to go under. So I think Aaron Jones is going to get some attempts. His attempt line's at 14.5. Almost pulled the trigger on that. But as I started looking into it, when he has had between 13 and 16 attempts, he is over this line in 80% of games. So I do think he gets at least 13. So I do like him getting 60 rush yards. I also like his receptions, but it's very heavily juiced at like -154. But I think he gets at least 3 catches tonight. And then Rams +2.5. I don't necessarily know if they're the better team. I think from a playoff perspective, they are. So give me the Rams +2.5. I really just like a money line. Matt Stafford over 21.5 pass completions. He's over this in 5 of his last 10 games. 1 of 2 versus Minnesota. So we know that Minnesota's run D is fairly stout, but I think he's going to kind of go from the Lions playbook and just do a lot of checkdowns, a lot of intermediate passes. So I like him to go over his pass completions. Then Kyron Williams over 81.5 rush yards. He's over this in 6 of his last 10. He had 97 yards versus Minnesota on October 24th. His carry line is at 20.5. So as long as he's averaging 4 yards a carry, he hits this line. His longest rush line's at 15.5, and most books have him favored to go over that. So put all those together, I just see a decent amount of rush yards, and I like him getting an anytime touchdown, which is our last play. Got a touchdown in 6 of his last 10. Now, I will say Minnesota is 4th in terms of least rushing touchdowns allowed to the running back position, but man, Rams have some very, very good receivers. I could see a situation where either Kyron breaks one off, maybe breaks a 10, 12, 5, whatever yarder off for a touchdown, or we get a PI on the 1. Stafford's not gonna sneak it. They'll hand it off to Kyron. He gets us the TD that we need. So that is where I'm at on everything, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. Join the Discord. Link is down below. As always, catch you in the next video.